Welcome to an episode of Catching Up with Coach. The NBA trade deadline has passed. I believe there were, if I'm correct, 67 players moved at this deadline. It's a lot. That's an all time record in the NBA, and the previous record was last year. So 67 players have new teams now. And there were some big names moved. For a CBA, that quite honestly sucks. Like you root for the team to get under the tax, get under the tax. Or you root for the player to don't make all NBA because now we got to pay you more. Then we might go into the tax, and then we can't spend money on free agency or trades, and then we don't have the flexibility to do anything. There's a lot of trades. By the way, my little rant there is a little ridiculous. We root for our players not to make all NBA or any of the special things that go in their bonuses because we don't want to go into the tax. I find that a little ridiculous. Like, I get the NBA wants to really try to balance this out, but now you're just seeing teams or the price of picks have gone way up. Picks really mean something, unless you're the Toronto Raptors of a few years ago, where we were just handing picks out like candy. Spurs, you get a first round pick for Thad Young. Spurs, you get a first round pick for Jakob Poeltl. Spurs, we'll give you more stuff. Why not? But the trade deadline was very interesting. There were some big names moved, and there were some bottom feeder teams that are done tanking. Tanking has been a problem in the NBA. Utah has purposely lost games to tank for multiple seasons. Charlotte has been doing the same thing. The Washington Wizards have been doing the same thing. But here we are with those three teams. So why those three teams? I believe the first one to make noise was the Utah Jazz acquiring Jaren Jackson Jr. I did not see this coming. Definitely not going to Utah, but I love it. Utah, because they've been purposely tanking over the last few years, they've acquired picks upon picks upon picks, some from the Donovan Mitchell trade, some from the Rudy Gobert trade, and they threw all their chips in to get Jaren Jackson Jr. And not really all their chips. It's all like some of their like acquired chips that they've got from those trades over the years. And now the Utah Jazz will have Jaren Jackson Jr. They'll have Walker Kessler and Lowry Markkinen. They literally have a front line of like 7'1", 6'9", and 7'1". The NBA is getting bigger. Utah understands that. Now let's go look at the Washington Wizards. They acquired Anthony Davis. They gave up Chris Middleton, I think it was Malachi Branham, AJ Johnson, Bagley, couple firsts, but the way into the future might not even be that great. And they got Anthony Davis. Now, obviously, he is injured all the time, but it's still Anthony Davis when he's healthy. You're pairing him next to Alex Sarr. What is their defense going to look like next year? The Washington Wizards have a chance next year in the East to be top 5 if they're healthy. Because what they're going to do with Anthony Davis is sit him for the rest of the year, just like the Raptors did with Brandon Ingram. They're going to tank the rest of the year, and then they're going to hope to get a really good pick. Could you imagine coming into next year, they get like Gosh, I don't even know what they need because they have their starting lineup, and that's good enough. They'll have Trey Young. They'll have Trey Johnson, Keyshawn George, Anthony Davis, and Alex Sarr. Koulibaly is there, of course. Will Riley, shout out to him. Kitchener. Washington Wizards are getting bigger, and they're getting more shooting. They got a point guard in Trey Young. Yeah, he can't play defense, but that's why you go get Anthony Davis and have Alex Sarr. I love what Washington's doing. They're probably going to need a new coach to come in there. And I'm looking at a guy like Mike Malone, potentially. Maybe there's a couple assistants out there. But Washington needs a new coach. You're going in next year with expectations. You can't just move forward with this coach that they've had. Go and get someone who can take you to the playoffs. So if I was Washington, I'd be looking at Mike Malone. And there's plenty of other coaches out there. Maybe even Tibbs, but then again, Anthony Davis wouldn't play, probably if Tibbs coached. So, although I love Tibbs working with Alex Sarr, that I would love. So the Washington Wizards and the Utah Jazz clearly got better. The Charlotte Hornets. They have been one of the great stories of the NBA this year. The drafting of Con Knipple, the health now of LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller, the emergence of the center, I think it's Musa Diabate. Guy's unreal. Unreal athlete. Block shots, rebound, protect the rim. And then they go and just picked up Kobe White, who was a really good basketball player. The Charlotte Hornets will be in the play-in, and it won't shock me if they end up in the top 6 because I think they're that good. They got something going in Charlotte. They have a ton of talent. LaMelo, Miller, Con Knipple, now Kobe White. I really like Charlotte and Washington's core. As much as I am a Raptors fan, we don't have their cores. We're good, but these cores, they got shooting ability and they got size, which we don't have. We have some defense. We have a tiny bit of shot creation, but mainly it comes from Ingram. But we don't have the shot making. We don't have the size. And you're kind of wondering next year, where's Toronto going to fall in all of this? Atlanta just picked up Jonathan Kuminga. I hope they give him a chance this year to see what he's got. Kuminga and Jalen Johnson and Reese Shea. It's a weird fit, but let's see. They did get off Porzingis. Porzingis is almost useless now. He's not helping anybody. But let's see where Atlanta goes now. Because this was supposed to be a big year for them. Remember, coming into the year, Atlanta made the big moves. They got Porzingis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Nickeil Alexander-Walker's been very good for them. Porzingis gave you nothing this year. Drafted Asa Newell. It's not bad. Now they traded Trey Young. Get a little bit more shooting. They don't have much in size, though. I think that's a concern that I have. They got a Kongwu, and that's about it. A Kongwu and Johnson. So they have to figure that out and how they're going to do that. But I really love what the Washington Wizards have done. You could go in next year with that 5. That 5 could make a lot of noise in the East. And a pick coming in next year. And Koulibaly. I don't even know if you're Washington, what do you draft? I guess a big. Anthony Davis will be hurt. So what if they ended up drafting Caleb Wilson? What if they ended up getting the big German kid who plays in Washington? There's not this draft coming up doesn't have a lot of bigs, and bigs are at a premium now, which is probably where we want to move on to the next part of this is the big market. Yes, I'm talking about NBA bigs. The Raptors were trying to be in the market, especially with Pirtle injury, to land themselves a big. Now, the teams with excess bigs knew that there were a lot of teams out there that were looking for bigs. Orlando was letting teams know, to get Goga Batagi, it's going to cost you a first round pick, which is lunacy. He's third string center, but they know because they have bigs. And the big man is back. 3 or 4 years ago was Vision 6'9". We still, apparently, after this deadline, we're kind of back to that. I think it's a failed philosophy, basketball. Maybe you can do it a bit if you have some shooting. Well, we ain't got no shooting. We're 30th in 3-point percentage. But we're trying our best to keep doing that again. Which I don't understand because all you have to do is run into one big who can legitimately play and it's a wrap. We saw it in the playoffs with Joel Embiid. We couldn't do anything with Embiid. Couldn't stop him at all. But it's amazing how the NBA works, though, in terms of styles of basketball. What's the next big thing that's coming up? Because there was that draft where Jeremy Sohan was being drafted over guys because he was 6'9", couldn't dribble, couldn't shoot. And I went on podcasts at the time when I first started, and I said, this guy shouldn't be going like pick number 7 or 8. Didn't make any sense. And now it's the big man that's back. Everybody's looking for a big. And it's not just the Raptors. Golden State was willing to get Porzingis because they needed something. They also want to get off Kuminga. Porzingis is not going to help Steph Curry. Will, Pistons doing nothing is a lot worse than the Raptors. That's always a good question because when you're the top seed team, do you want to mess it up? I think the Pistons, I know they traded Jaden Ivey. Look, Ivey's been hurt a lot. Let's be real. I know they got Kevin Herter. Look, at least he can shoot. He's giving them more shooting. And I just don't know if the fit of Ivy there anymore was going to work. They seem committed to Cade. They should be. Thompson twin. Duran. Ron Holland. Tobias Harris. They got a little bit of everything. And probably it will probably be help them out in the long run. Because the name of the game is size and shooting. Raptors extending Webster in hindsight was the worst free agent we made this summer, it seems. We got mixed messaging over that from Keith Pelly back in the summer. Fired Masai, which I get. Time came. And quite honestly, it's not like there was a lot that happened over the last couple of years. As much as Masai did for basketball in Toronto and in Canada, he had to go. And they tried to promote Bobby for a couple of reasons. One, I don't know if they wanted to really do an extensive search and then try to start over from scratch. And two, they probably knew, you know what, it's going to be cheaper for us to do that because you're still under contract. Now, Bobby will get a contract extension from Rogers. 100% he will. Part of it is due to, right now they're in the playoffs. They have exceeded expectations, I think, for most people. They have mine. I had this team winning 38 to 42 wins on the year. I still might be right in the end because I am worried about what trends I've been seeing lately from this team. How long is this going to be sustainable with no Pirtle, no size, lack of shooting? And was that first stretch of the season, was that more smoke and mirrors? Because they had an easy schedule. I heard Michael Grange today said like they ran into three opponents and they played them multiple times and they all had one win on the year. It's like Brooklyn, it was Indiana. There was another one that they ran into as well who also had one win on the year. I can't remember who it was now. Brooklyn and Indiana. There was somebody else. But they were playing those teams multiple times in a row. And look, you can only play who's in front of you. But now that we're getting into the meat and potatoes of the season, where it's getting harder, and you're losing to the Celtics, and you're losing to the Knicks, and you're losing to Minnesota. I mean, what are they, 1-10 or 1-11 on teams that are above them in the standings? That's your telltale sign. That's your telltale sign that you are not ready to go to the next level. How many games have we blown because of lack of shooting and size? We've blown way too many games. And I think Washington and Utah, Charlotte to a degree, and now Indiana as of today by picking up Zubac. Great trade for them. It's a great trade for Indiana. They finally get a reliable center. It's going to be different than Miles Turner, but they're going to be right back in the mix next year for the finals. I think they will be with Halliburton back. They're going to have a high draft pick potentially. Siakam. I like what Indiana did. Everybody, it's interesting. Everybody's doing what I got to give them credit for this. What Masai and Bobby did last year with Brandon Ingram. They acquired a guy. You're a really bad team. Play a game or two. Sit the rest of the year. We'll come back next year. And we're going to try to compete. That's exactly what Indiana's doing. That's what Utah's going to do. That's what Washington is going to do. The only one who made a move, I think, that is, I don't call them near the bottom, but it's Charlotte. Charlotte's the one that's taking advantage right now. Jeff Peterson, shout out to Jeff, is doing a great job in Charlotte right now by just capitalizing on the moment in which they are in, their team in particular. Adding Kobe White, who's a starter in this league, he might not even start. He's probably going to come off the bench for them. I don't know who else would. It's going to be LaMelo, Kahn, Brandon Miller, Bridges, probably the Diabate kid. They're going to bring Kobe White in off the bench. Wow. By the way, what exactly is Chicago Bulls doing? I'm sorry, but Mark Eversley and the president, they need to be fired. I have no idea it doesn't make any sense. I thought some of the Raptors moves over the years have been bad. That doesn't compare to whatever they're trying to do right now. They got Jaden Ivey in all of this, but you know what? You traded all your bigs. Vucevic is gone. Desumu's gone. I mean, he's more of a wing. So you're going to roll with, if you're Chicago, you're rolling with Giddey, Ivey, Mattaz. I don't even know who else. I'm trying to figure out what Chicago is doing. But too many. I don't have enough brain cells to do that. So we'll move to the Raptors just for a second. So the Raptors, my apologies, this is already up. So the Raptors have made a trade last night, and we've acquired Trace Jackson Davis. So me being a college basketball watcher, especially a few years ago. Um, he was very good in college. Beyond, if you're watching this, I believe you told me your dad was a big fan of Trace Jackson Davis. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you told me that he was, which would make sense because I believe your dad watches college hoops a lot. But yeah, no, Trace Trace Jackson Davis in college. I think he was in the running for College Player of the Year. Like, he was the best big in the country at one time. Mind you, he was a senior, but he was really good. Him and Jalen Hood Schifino in Indiana. They were, they worked a great pick and roll. He blocked a lot of shots, grabbed lots of rebounds, decent passer at the time too. There was a reason Golden State saw him like, you know what, we need a big, we'll take him. And in his rookie year, I believe he played in the rookie sophomore game. And remind you, this is like the 57th pick in the draft at the time. And he is 25 years old. He's going to be 26 in a couple of weeks. So in his rookie year, he was basically almost putting up CMB numbers: 8 points, 5 rebounds, a block, assists. And then after that, he didn't play much for Golden State the last couple of years. He averaged about 16 minutes a game for them in his rookie year, about 15 minutes last year, and he's averaging about 11 minutes a game this year. Does not shoot threes at all. So, yeah, what were his per 36 minutes? So, yeah, in his first year, his per 36 minutes were 17 points, 11 rebounds, 3 assists. Not bad. But we also have to remember, too, the shots that he was getting in Golden State with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, he is not going to get those shots here. He is not going to be that open. We do not have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. Does he have a chance to be in the rotation? Yeah, he has a chance because he apparently is 6'10". They said that he grew an inch a couple of years ago, even though he's listed at 6'9". He's probably 6'9". But they want him because they like how he can operate out of the post in Darko's offense. Darko's offense is not very good. The offensive rating has not been very good. It's been at times average. Our defense has been very good this year, but the offense, quite honestly, stinks. And we saw it last night in the Minnesota game. Sam Mitchell made a great comment on the broadcast last night. Why does Jamal Shed have the ball in his hands at the end of the game? Why is CMB posting up at the 3-point line? Why is RJ making this little soft pass to CMB? Why is the ball not in Brandon Ingram or Scotty's hands or even Quickly's hands? I got to go with Sam on that. I had a coach tell me one time, basketball is not a democracy. Basketball is a monarchy. It is definitely a monarchy in the fourth quarter. Start the game. Is it a democracy? Sure. But Darko's trying to coach his team as if it's a democracy in the fourth quarter with 3 minutes left to go in the game. It doesn't work that way. What did Minnesota do at the end of the game? The Ant-Man. On every possession down, he touched the ball, and he had the ball for the most part in his hands, creating. And we couldn't do anything with him. We should have had the ball in Ingram or Scotty's hands the whole time. If the other guys want to space out and shoot, that's fine. And if you miss, okay. But there was just too many turnovers last night. And that's been a bit of a problem for the team this year. When you think the Raptors are going to go up another level and maybe not so much be like a top 2 team in the East, but you think they're going to be right there on the heels of that, they tell us why they're not. And that is why they are not, which has been some of the last few games. from the physicality standpoint and right between the eyes. Here, it's another level that they have not been able to reach yet. Now, could that be different players? Sure. Is it some of it due to age? Sure, can be. But for whatever reason, from a physical standpoint, we cannot elevate our game. And that's why the Knicks and Cat destroyed us. That's why Boston has been destroying us. That's why Minnesota basically came back from being down, 15 points at one point. People last night were complaining about Brandon Ingram. I don't know what game they were watching. That wasn't what I watched last night. I saw absolutely no one who could do anything with the basketball last night down the stretch, be able to create anything. Shed was turning the ball over left, right, and center. RG made 2 stupid turnovers. Scotty didn't really have the ball in his hands much towards the end. He had one opportunity, or sorry, he went at Gobert, dipped his shoulder in, and just threw it down. And then on the other end of the floor, Dante DiVincenzo like pokes him or something, and then he falls down. And he looks at us. It's like, what are you doing? So there's a little bit of that I don't really understand. Like, this is we're in the second half of the year more or less. It's time to be more physical, to take advantage of these teams in which you're beating them by 15 to 20 points. You can't blow leads like that. You got the Bulls tonight who you're playing. You have to win that game. It's going to be big problems tonight if you don't win that game, especially you're one day post the trade deadline, and our front office, let's just face it, did nothing. No offense to Trace Jackson Davis, probably a fine young man, but we didn't do enough. We didn't do enough to really improve this team. Now you might ask, well, why didn't we do enough? Why we haven't done enough, you have to go back to 2023, 2024, and 2025. What happened during those times? We acquired Jakob Poeltl, for one. It is the Wemby draft. We are 6 or 7 games below 500 in like late December to mid-January. The front office decided, you know what? We're going for it. We're going to go get Jakob Poeltl. Not even the right center for that group of Siakam and OG and Fred and Scotty. Not even the right center for them. But we went and got him because Masai Ujiri had, a bias towards the players that he drafted, and he kept saying that he's a top 10 center in the league. BS. He's a decent center. He's a top 18 to 25 center in the league. He ain't top 10. At that time, you needed Miles Turner because Indiana had him in trade rumors for like the last 4 years. It was worse than what we do to RJ right now. So we go and trade for Jakob Poeltl. Nick Nurse gets fired. Jakob Poeltl gets his extension of about $20 million over 4 years. At the time, nobody said that's a terrible contract, but it did seem like it was the going rate, and we needed a center. See, every time we trade for someone, they got 1 year left. It's almost like we're stuck. Even though you could have just signed him in free agency. What you literally could have done was we could have tanked. Free agency rolls around. Poeltl's not going to have a big market at that time. You could have had a draft pick, and then you could have signed Poeltl had you done it right. But we had to do it the stupid way by giving up a bunch of picks. We saw how that turned out. And then we go to the next year. We trade OG and Siakam, and we go get Quickly and Barrett. Now, Barrett was already under contract, according to the toxic asset by some. And then Quickly had 1 year left. Once again, we're in the corner. We have no point guard if we don't re-sign him. What do? We have to give him the money. We gave him $32 million. Some will say that's obviously a really big contract, and it is, but I remember at the time, it was kind of the going rate for him. The front office did view him as that next big guard who could, you know, burst out on the scene. Maybe we get a Tyrese Maxey on our hand. This was at the time. We realize now that's not the case. So, why I'm going with this right now. And then obviously Scotty gets his rookie max extension. Fine, that makes sense. And then you go and sign Brandon Ingram by giving up another pick that you had from the Siakam trade because you didn't want to give OG 40 million, so you gave it to Ingram, which honestly I'm okay with. I'm okay with. So here we are. The inflexibility that this team now has is because of the moves of the last few years. And the cherry on top was July 1st or July 2nd or late June of this year when you gave a 30-year-old center a 4-year extension. 19 million goes up to 25 and then 27 and it's non-guaranteed. So you're basically paying a 34-year-old center big time money who can't shoot, doesn't really have a special skill set. I mean, he's all right all around. When I say that, I mean, yeah, he's got some nice touch around the basket. Yes, he's a decent rebounder. Yes, he's an okay rim protector. But you paid him a lot of money. And this is where we're at today. Due to the prior front office, which is still this front office, giving out these massive contracts while this team was losing games, while this team does not have any size other than the guy who was hurt, while this team cannot shoot and is 30th in 3-point percentage. They did not value shooting in size, and it's catching up with them. Could some of that be, how the offense is run? Maybe to a degree. But we were told that Darko was a development coach. I'm not putting this all on Darko, but Ochai never developed this year. He was pretty good last year. Grady, I know they were expecting more from him. Now, some of this is Grady, you can make an argument, is not getting the opportunity to do so, which I, for the most part, agree with. I don't think Grady has gotten the opportunity this year because we know when he plays minutes, his numbers are better. I heard a stat today, shout out to Samson Folk. When Grady Dick scores 10 plus points in a game, the Raptors are like 15-3 or 14-4. So when he is involved and he is playing more, we seem to win. But for whatever reason, Darko took forever to give him one start this year. He was starting Jacoby and Battle, but Shed, but not Grady. And I came on here about 2 weeks ago trying to plead the case how you better take a different approach with Grady. And they kind of did. We saw the minutes go up, and he produced. That's the thing. He produced when he was playing. The percentages went up. And then RJ comes back and all these guys come back and now you're back to square one again. So I really hope that they use this second half of the year. Now that the trade deadline's over with, now people can just breathe and relax. That you give him more of an opportunity to know exactly what you have with him. Because what they just did with RJ Barrett in every trade rumor possible, like there's no way he's coming back next year. There's no way. He's an expiring deal, which that might be attractive to a team. You probably revisit Sabonis again. But there's no way you could bring RJ Barrett back. If I was RJ, I wouldn't want to come back here. I stepped off the plane from New York and it's basically they've been trying to trade me the whole time. Even though I've gotten better and better each year. And by the way, we were like, this is a couple of weeks ago while he was hurt. They were like, 18-7 when he plays at the time. And part of that was the 1-4 record. which began the year. So really, at that time, they were like 17-3 when RJ Barrett played. Now, obviously, he had the injury, and you can tell that the knee is bothering him and the ankle is bothering him. RJ's not moving like he did the first of the year. It's a little sluggish the way he's moving. He's almost like he's running as if he's heavier. No, I don't think he is. But RJ, when this team was rolling, was very good. Perfect 3 point or perfect third option next to Ingram and Scotty. Will, thank you. We're going to be posting this right now. From Josh Lewenberg, there seems to be a misconception that the Raptors failed or struck out at the deadline. They put themselves in a tough spot with contracts they've signed in recent years. And Pirtle's injury loomed large, but decision not to overspend on flawed backup bigs was an active one. We're putting out fires. That's what that's all about. Because I find that a lot of BS. Everybody knew that they were in on Sabonis and they wanted to get off the Pirtle contract. And they were willing to include RJ Barrett. Because I knew that this would come out after the deadline. Well, we love Pirtle. We love Jakob on this team. We love RJ. They just deny. That's what it is. I've watched sports too much to see how this works. I agree. I think Bobby held the line to the first round pick. I actually do believe that. It wasn't me. Will, is this the Shaggy reference? Please let me know if it is. If that's what you mean. Yeah, look, they're going to come out. They're going to deny. No, we really like Jakob Pertl and we really like R.J. Barrett, and there's rumors that come out. And look, they were trying to get rid of them, but they did set a baseline of we're not giving up first round picks for Domantas Sabonis. And you know what? To a degree, I respect that. But I also came out and said you have to give up at least one pick if you're going to get off Pirtle's contract. 2 for anybody would be way too much. But here's where they are from 2023 to right now. All these contracts that's been signed, all the picks that have been given away, all the ways in which this team has been constructed has been building, and this is why you have the financial inflexibility today, right? It's just the reality of it. You gave Quickly a lot of money. You gave Pirtle a massive extension about a year too early. You never drafted bigs. Let's see. And one of those guys who helped with those contracts got an effing promotion. Even the PR stinks. Yeah, look, at the time, I want to tear this down because I think they needed a new voice, not Bobby per se. I want to get someone external to the Raptor situation to come in and have fresh eyes to look at what they have, to have fresh eyes and compare it to the NBA product today of, the other teams out there, they got bigs and they could shoot and size matters, but you basically carried it on from the previous administration, which I mean is Masai. If it was me, I didn't think it was just Masai that had to go. I thought Bobby kind of had to just fresh start. That was just me at the time. And I credit for what the Raptors have done so far this year because I think they have exceeded expectations thus far, but there's a lot of season left. There's a lot of teams that are now starting to get healthy. Nice, Will. Oh, that's Shaggy meme. Always good. It wasn't me. Very good. James. Welcome, James. Shout out to you. RJ took it out on CMB. He did, and he was wrong. You watched that game, RJ, that was a grade 2 pass he made to CMB. That was so soft. If Rudy Gobert's getting the passing lane, you got a problem, man. CMB was right to fight back, too. I think RJ is just frustrated. I think the trade rumors got to him. Look, he's a human being at the end of the day. I can see why. He's a Canadian kid. He's played pretty well since he's been in Toronto. Like now I'm in more trade rumors. You didn't promote me last year for All-Star, but the Blue Jays did. RJ, I'm sure, loves being in Toronto playing home. I think he loves playing for the Raptors, like the idea of the Raptors. But I do wonder if he's just like fed up with the front office, the organization at times. Obviously, I don't know that, but I really wonder how he manages to do that. Just being trade rumor since you got off the plane from the Knicks. You weren't even mentioned in the open gym video when Masai said, we got Emmanuel quickly. You and Scotty are going to run pick and roll," which they barely did for the last couple of years. Not even mention RJ, who's been the better player of that. Oh, we got a guest coming on. Who do we have here? We got the host of Basketball Rewind, my host, from Catching Up with Coach podcast to your computers as well. We got Kenyon. Kenyon, how are we today?
I'm good. I'm just in the middle of doing a couple things at the same time, but figured I'd see if you're still cooking up some stuff.
Yes, I've been telling the audience how since 2023, this is where we're at today with the inflexibility of being able to do much of anything at this trade deadline. The original signing of Pirtle, acquiring him during the Wemby draft.
Yeah.
The acquiring Quickly and Barrett. Quickly was on and expiring at the time. You had no choice but to sign him because you did not have a point guard. You bid against yourself.
You did?
Yep.
You definitely did.
And then you acquired Brandon Ingram. You know this. I wasn't upset at the time with the move. I think we kind of needed something, just my opinion. But it was also confusing too because we were told this is going to be a rebuild. It lasted 3 months, and you went got Ingram. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you got the Pirtle extension back in the summer for a center that's like maybe top 18, 25 in the league. Beyond might say, he might be top 50 at best kind of thing. So Masai thought he was top 10. I think that's no. But I know a lot of fans are upset with the deadline because we didn't make any big time moves, but maybe I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on the deadline just for the Raptors? Is this expect from you or is this not?
So I'll just backtrack a bit and then answer your question. You basically are asking me like more or less, is this a disappointment?
Yeah.
All of the moves that you outlined, and I said this at the time, even with like Brandon Ingram and going back to Pirtle, every single move in a vacuum, if isolated and you don't have any other context of the team, it's like, oh, that's not a bad move, right? So you go get Pirtle at the time, it's like, oh, they could use a center. They got a center. So in a vacuum, it's good. But then when you kind of zoom out even just a little bit, you're like, but is this the right center? Did this make sense? For example, re-signing Pirtle, did fine. You wanted Brandon Ingram, that's fine. Okay. I personally thought if you're saying that you're rebuilding as much, then you don't need to do something, right? Like you really don't need to do something. And I know a lot of people were saying that, well, were you okay with holding on to a Indiana pick that looked like it was going to be 20s to 30s? Yes, yeah. I would have, because they as in the front office said that this year, the 26th draft was so valuable that, of course, why wouldn't you want to hold on to that and stack up picks for that draft? Trade a different pick. Trade an unprotected 2027 pick for Brandon Ingram if you have to get Brandon Ingram. So I'm not surprised. I think success is a function of expectation. But at the same time, this is the type of thing where it looks like just accounting. And that's it. We got a center who is, at least last year, I don't know what his numbers are this year. I could look it up. But last year was one of the worst finishers around the hoop in the entire league of all players who play basketball in the National Basketball Association.
We have 5 of them on this team now, by the way. From last year, it was RJ, Grady, Trace Jackson Davis. There was a couple others I saw, and I can't remember exactly who, but I did see the list.
Grady
We had
was definitely up there. RJ was definitely up there. So, um, yeah, you're doing these types of moves, and it's like, okay, Trace Jackson Davis in a vacuum. It's like, okay, you're getting a third big, but then it's like, oh, you're trading a second. Now the second is not necessarily the best second. Could you have gotten a better option with that? Possibly. So that's where I'm at. It's also, if people who are complaining about size, I mean, there is a rumor that he might have grown an inch.
I heard that today. He's apparently 6'10".
Sure. I don't. I like, to me. I told you I'm looking for not band-aid solutions. The positive thing is player option, and the positive thing is you decreased it, and so I thought it was okay, but not great, like a C plus at best. My question to you though, just to toss it back, what happens with Chris Paul?
They waive him.
Oh, no, great.
I mean, the trade deadline's done now. They
Yeah,
have
no, I know, but it's just there's no chance that they want him to play because they could use a Chris Paul. Actually, I'm looking right now, Trace. Oh, wait, no. This is by year, sorry. So this year he is improved, but he's still shooting below league average at 58% around the rim.
Yeah. His first is interesting because I looked at his stats from his first year, and he made the rookie sophomore game as like the 54th pick or 57th pick, whatever he was. It was
Yeah.
almost like he had like a CMB year in his first year. Now, mind you, he came in as a senior from college to the NBA, but he had that kind of similar impact on Golden State. Now, mind you, he had a lot of easy shots with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. He's going to get way easier shots with them than he ever will with us. And then you kind of see the numbers dip year by year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'll put it this way. It's not the worst move. It is a move.
Mm-hmm.
It's a cost control move, but I want people to pump the brakes. Like, even if he has like a great move early on, uh, yeah, just suffered from shrinkage. Um, Even if he has a great like couple games, I want people to just pump the brakes. Like, this is a better than Mobamba. This isn't really like a great long term solution, but hey.
Yeah. No, that's basically what it is. But Bobby did the bare minimum. I think he thinks so. He got under the tax. I know that was told to him by Pelly and Rogers. Get under the tax. We're not paying that, not yet. And yes, he technically addressed a big in which that you could put in the game. It's hard, I think, for fans, including myself, when you've been hovering the top 3 or 4 and you can see some of the things that they need and they don't go out and address them, especially when you see your other teams around you getting better. It's tough, I think. It is for me. And what was it like for you to see all these teams around us get better, maybe outside of Orlando and New York, who didn't make moves? But what are your thoughts on that? But the other teams getting better and us not really getting into that.
I'm fine with that if there's a purpose to that. The reason why we didn't get better is not because we didn't try. It's
Mm.
because the contracts that we have on our books are hard to move.
Yeah.
So that it's even worse because it's like you're trying to get better. Whether or not what we should be or not is a whole other story. But we're trying to get better and we still don't because of our own incompetence. Now, some people will call me miserable when I say that. I mean, I'm not miserable. I'll still watch this team. I watch this team more than most people. But I'm just calling a spade a spade.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, I mean, it's like Bobby, as well as Masai, but we'll focus on Bobby right now because he was supposed to be the cap guy. He was supposed to be the guy in charge of signing these deals and contracts. He had routinely signed deals that were either hard to move like Gary Trent because it's like, okay, you don't know if it's basically the guy's expiring next year potentially because you're always giving player options or vice versa. I mean, Brendan Ingram is another thing where it's like I would have just signed him to 3 years outright, but I understand the negotiation there. The price isn't bad, but it's like, is he valuable? Well, is he going to opt in? Is he going to opt out? We don't know. So that it's a problem for another day, but when you're looking at the trade deadline, you look at some of these things. So yeah.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, just to move on from the Raptors, what are your thoughts for some of the other teams at the deadline? Was there a team or two that impressed you with some of the moves they made?
Indiana.
Ah,
I know it was the last deal, like major deal that kind of went down, but like them at the buzzer, not even the buzzer, like to be honest, like it was like, two possessions before and closed it out. Dagger, right? Honestly, that was a phenomenal move. It's not just good for now; it's good for down the road. I think Zubac is exactly the type of center that they need. They had the assets and players to give up to go get him. There is a player that I'm going to ask you about in a second that the Nets waived, of course, but just to
I
keep
saw that.
yeah, just to keep on Zoo for a second, I'm just going to look up his salary real quick. I
He's
mean,
28 years old. I do know that.
he is 28 years old. They come back next year, right? So he's right in the dab smack in the middle of his prime, doing well. They come back next year. And even this year, they can kind of like ride it out because people were like, oh, well, they're going to tank. I'm like, they don't have to tank. They're bottom 3 in the league. They can see where they end up. They lottery protected the pick. And even if they rise up to, say, the play in somehow and then fall out of the play in at the very end, they still keep their pick. If it's like a 10 to 14th pick, they can keep that pick.
I think it's from 5 to 9. They could keep the
Is
pick two. Is it? No, no. Sorry, five
No,
to nine goes
they're
to the
conveying it
Clippers.
5 to
Yeah,
9. So if they
yeah,
suck, but they fall out of the lottery, and it's just but if they're in that, think of the Raptors the other year when we got Grady. I guess that's the year that is that the year with where we faced the Bulls and the girl screamed.
yes, yes.
So so we were 13th. In that case, they would still have the 13th pick of this year's draft.
Yeah. I
So
must say though, with the new CBA, I mentioned this when I first came on. As a fan, it's almost like you're cheering against the players. It's like they can't get all NBA because they'll get that bonus and then we'll go into the luxury tax.
yeah,
Or it's, oh boy, we have to get under the luxury tax at the trade deadline. If we don't, then oh no, the bookie man's going to come. Like I don't. That's one of the things that I don't like. So I feel like I have to root up against guys getting accolades because they'll get a bonus and then we go in the luxury tax. Or you'll have teams saying, yeah, you know what, we don't want to pay you your full
yeah.
salary because if you get all NBA from playing this many games, then we got to pay you. I just don't like being a fan, and I have to root against them from winning awards in case they get a bonus.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
wish,
I agree with you. They should uncouple awards from
yeah,
monetary incentive. What I think it's also, I mean, we see this, right? Like, there's a lot of these smaller ownership groups where it's not a singular entity that
mhm,
is owning things anymore. I mean, um, there's a few exceptions to that, but even like for example, the Lakers were one of the last, like they're a family business, but they sold it to a group. And
yeah,
these groups are, for the most part, it's going to be interesting because they're going to run it like a business where, in general, I don't think that most people are going to be that incentivized to win at a championship level unless they really can.
mhm.
So if you're a smart GM, you're going to stack it up so that you have a really extended window to be mediocre and in the mix, but not quite there. The worst thing for you is to actually win because then your team gets expensive in some
Yeah.
ways.
In some ways, it is. You get punished for winning,
Yeah.
which is a
So,
little,
yeah.
just to slightly move on from this.
hmm
I was thinking what you just said with Indiana.
hmm
Clearly, next year, Halliburton's back. Now they have Zubac. They
hmm
might they might get their
He's not
pick.
soft.
Yeah. So we know that Indiana is going to be much better next year.
Yeah.
We know that Washington, if they stay healthy, it's a big if with Anthony Davis, But if Washington stays healthy, there could be a problem, especially another year of George and Johnson. They're going to give a top pick as well. Already added to Alex Sarr, Trey Young, and Anthony Davis. Charlotte Hornets are going to be better next year. Detroit's not going to fall off. Cleveland's not going to fall off. I don't think the Knicks are going to fall off. I don't think Orlando is going to fall off, even though their record, they should be better than what their record suggests, in my opinion.
They got to get healthy. It's always been it. So we'll see what happens with
Philly. We don't know. I don't really know with Philly. But I look at the Raptors and how we're locked into all these contracts, and that's concerning for me next year because everybody around them will be better next year. But I can't say the same about Toronto. Am I wrong on that? Am I inaccurate? Or do you think that's a possibility where you don't know if the Raptors are going to take that next step as a team next year due to all the talent that we have and contracts?
Well, you have to ask yourself where are the leaps going to come from, and are we playing the guys that could potentially leap? You look at a guy like Grady, Jacoby, and CMB. Those are where you're going to be looking for leaps from. I don't see a leap in a traditional way from a guy like what's his name on a roster like Shed. I just don't see it. That's not a bad thing or diss to Shed, but yeah. So I think there's one way that we can, and that's why I'm kind of happy about this trade deadline to an extent, is there's one way that we don't lose out. You're not going to like it, but it might end up that way anyways. And that is, number one, you get lucky at the draft. Number two, you get lucky at the draft in multiple ways. So there's a world where the Raptors right now, I don't know, I think we're 6th in the East.
Yes.
Who's behind us is not that far behind, and some of those teams
Orlando.
got better. So Orlando got better. They're healthy now. Again, I'm not comparing who's, the remaining games to play, but the Raptors are not in the easiest part of their schedule per se. Not necessarily the most difficult part either, but they're not in the easiest part of their schedule. Could the Heat catch up? I mean, the Heat didn't really do anything, but yeah. But the Heat could potentially catch up.
They could if Giannis. That's their key.
Well, but the deadline's over, right?
No, I'm saying going into next year.
Oh,
because they will have more picks at the draft. They'll be able to offer 2 more picks to Milwaukee.
Gotcha.
And if he says, I want to go to Miami, that changes everything for Toronto then as well.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you end up in the play-in, right, and it goes the way of Dallas last year, and you don't necessarily even need a top 10 pick. Say you stay where you are, you get another top 14 pick or 13 pick or whatever, 12 pick. One of those top 10 guys might fall out. Just takes one team to say, well, we actually like this guy, or one team to actually be like, well, we don't really feel like this. We're willing to trade back. And now you can use your pick to trade up into a draft that's a really, really good draft without going into the top 4. You can maybe move into the top 10. And now it's like you're adding that to your core with a guy who might actually end up solving a lot of problems. It might be a point guard, for example. It might be something else. And it also, in the offseason, it tends to be financially a lot more easy to move contracts around and figure stuff out because you have the time to really figure out, your books. Your books are essentially frozen in the offseason. So it's a lot easier to kind of okay, I'll make a move because I don't have to find the solution to the move within an X period of time so that the roster can play the next day. Yeah. So there's a world where the Raptors don't completely fall behind, but they are at risk.
I think that's the key. See, Milwaukee's going to fall off. The second they trade Giannis, they're in rebuild mode for the next couple of years. But the teams at the bottom of the last few years, the Utahs, Charlotte, Washington, they threw their draft picks that they've acquired from other teams, and they used them to bring back stars. So in their case for the Eastern Conference, Charlotte's going to be better next year. They just added Kobe White, too. He might not even start for them. He's probably coming in off the bench. And right. Washington will be doing the same thing. And I'm looking at some of their core, And I'm like, man, Washington's got a nice core. They got size. They have shooting now. They got defense. I'm
They're
like,
gonna
and
have a decision to make, but
yeah,
yes, they're
we have a
they're.
new guest coming on. We got Mouth of the North. Mouth, can you hear me? Mouth, can you hear me? I don't think Mouth can hear us at this time.
think so.
We'll wait for Mouth to speak, and then we'll bring him in.
Yeah. Well,
He's getting in his car.
he's going to the arena to go find Bobby, I guess, to
He,
go
he
talk to him.
don't go searching for him,
He's
Mouth.
going to go. Okay. He's like, listen, man, I could have done this better. This is,
Yeah, yes,
offering services because yeah.
yes. Mouth, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We hear
Mm-hmm.
you, man. You were getting in your car. Ken,
I
you thought
am. I just finished work.
Ken, you thought you were going to the Scotiabank Arena to grab Bobby.
No, I'm not. I'm not part of the Shams burner account that
Oh
says we're
yeah,
all going to go kill him.
yeah.
Oh,
I saw
jeez, that was
that's
people
like
don't do that.
yeah. Don't do that. That's
You know, I'm not. I'm not going to do that to the poor man. I'd
no.
actually rather talk to Josh and ask him what he's smoking.
Yes. So, Mouth, I guess I'll ask you because I've asked Kenyon. Welcome, by the way. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on this deadline for the Raptors?
Uh, have you heard the term popcorn fart?
Yep.
That's kind of what this trade deadline was. The Raptors' only goal, and I did say this to both of you before all this hoopla started, their goal was to get under the tax and to buy cheap on a center. And that's what they did. They got under the tax and they basically replaced Chomchi, the 57 pick in the 2024 draft, with
With
the
the
57
54th.
pick in the 2023 draft.
Nice.
So there you go. You got TJD, and I'm going to have trouble saying that for a while because I'm used to saying JGG or Gary Trent Jr. or whatever. So,
Yes. Yeah.
I think his dad used to play. By the way.
yeah, he's not going to play much. He's not a starter. He's a depth piece. He's a Mo Bamba replacement. Yeah, the Raptors have basically said we like our team, and all of us have said we don't like this team. They're fraudulent because they're 1-11 against good teams, and all the other teams around them are getting better, which means the 2-year window that started with the BI trade has turned into a 1-year window, which doesn't look very good.
I don't know if they like the team per se. I just think that they can't make moves, right? Like they hampered themselves
Yes.
and they can't make moves. So I don't know if it's necessarily a thing where it's like they really like things, but yeah.
This is dated back, as I said before, Mouth, you came on from 2023 when you acquired Pirtle. This
Yep.
this has been building. Then you re-signed quickly the year after. Then you gave Pirtle the extension. RJ already had his big contract coming in, and now that's a pretty neutral value contract based on what the others have, quite honestly. And now, maybe I'll ask you both this question. Is RJ here come 2026, 2027 season at the beginning? Is he still a Raptor?
Yes, because I don't think the Raptors are going to get anything for him. And I don't think they want to trade him for a bunch of second rounders. So I think he'll still be here. Yes. That and the fact that Darko doesn't want to play Grady or Jacoby in that spot means he'll probably still be here.
I don't think he's going to be here.
Really?
No,
Okay.
because he's going to have more value. He's going to have more value as an expiring. We saw the value of expiring picks, expiring contracts this year, and that's how you get into the mix for some of these guys. So it might be whoever. It may be the next person, whoever
Now,
is
this is the
equivalent of.
Raptors we're talking about, Kenyon. They didn't
I
move
understand.
Siakam or OG until like January.
I understand, but still, I'm
Okay.
just saying like the Raptors tend to try to be vulture with how
Yes.
they go for things. I don't know
Yeah.
who that is. I'm not naming any names or anything like that, but that's how they operate. And with the new CBA, almost to kind of answer one of the questions I saw in your chat, Coach, um, that's what has kind of happened is that you don't really gear up for. Most teams are not going to be gearing up for a free agency ever. I know everyone focuses on the Raptors, but I think that that's just gone in general.
Yeah.
And so it's about cap management, and good cap management is not waiting for RJ. Like RJ is going to have value even if you wait till the trade deadline to move him. He is a 27-28 million dollar expiring contract.
Yeah. I think they revisit the Sabonis thing in the offseason.
It could be that. It could be that. That also gives them more time to make other moves. But yeah, I think it's going to be easier to move off potentially to move off of Pirtle or quickly, for example, in the off season, because you have more time to figure deals out.
Agreed.
It's still
And
going
I
to
don't,
cost you.
yeah, it'll still cost you, but Sabonis, now that he'll be another season has passed, his value will go down. It's not going to be like don't think it was at the deadline because Sabonis wasn't going for much. He was our prom queen, and we were chasing the prom queen, and it was happened to be Sabonis. No one else was chasing him. No one. We have basically cornered the market for Sabonis. I never heard any other rumors. Not anything that got off the ground anyway. Because the Raptors will come out. Bobby's going to come out and say, "Well, the rumors were blown out of proportion. We love Jakob. We love RJ. Blah blah blah." I'm not buying that. You were shopping them. You want to get off Pirtle's contract. You knew you had to include RJ to do that, and you've been shopping RJ quite frankly anyway. But that's what they're going to come out and say.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think I definitely think that right now they're going to have a tough time, right? Like I don't know if it's going to be Sabonis per se, and I don't even know if Sabonis is a good idea in the offseason, but they have to clean up their books and they have to get to some sort of level of flexibility, and there's just going to be more opportunities. The other thing too is stomaching certain deals. I'll use an example of Jaw, for example. 1 year essentially of Jaw is different than looking at it from a longer term perspective, right? So I am not saying that is the move, but it just there are going to be more options and there's going to be more opportunities with RJ being an official expiring.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I agree with
And
that too.
so yeah.
He's got more value as an expiring as a 26-year-old versus a 32-year-old, in my opinion, as well.
Yes, and the fact that he's coming off, it's not an expiring like Ochai was an expiring, but it's a good chunk of change expiring.
Yeah.
Like that's where, like here's a good example, right? Chris Middleton, right? He was an expiring this year, right? He went and he got AD. Now, like that's how you get into the mix for that type of deal. I'm not suggesting that that's what they should do, but if you want to get into the mix for some of these other guys, as the other teams are trying to trade those guys, what they're looking for is cap space and flexibility.
It's the name
So
of the game.
here's my thing with that though, Kenny. Why, if that's the case, why didn't they just trade for RJ? Why didn't the RJ Sabonis thing happen already?
Because again, you're having to. So okay, I'll backtrack again. More moves. I'm not just focusing on the RJ Sabonis thing. More moves will open up in the offseason because your money is essentially, from a fiscal side of things, it's frozen in the summer. It's not like
Right.
you have if you make a deal now and it's like, say it's a 3-for-1, you have to fill certain roster spots within a certain, say 48-hour period or whatever. You're not constrained by that in the off season. You have a lot more time to figure moves out and kind of, so even if the roster doesn't work the second they make the move, it's like, okay, well, what's the next move? Then you have time to kind of figure that out. So I mean, we could focus on the Sabonis thing as an example, but yeah, I think it's really tough for teams looking at the Jakob Poeltl deal when he hasn't really played a lot. They're probably going to try to get him to play. We'll see how that goes.
I think so.
But at the end of the day, right now, it's like if I don't know if this dude's going to play, and I think he's going to be hobbled for the next 4 or 5 years, it's a big pill to swallow. And that's one of the main reasons why you didn't get a Sabonis deal done. I don't really want Sabonis. I don't think that Sabonis is, like the answer. I think that it's a better Band-Aid solution. It's a good wound wrapped. Maybe they're now you're getting a cast, but you're not doing the rehab yet, right?
I would agree with that.
But again, I wouldn't focus too much on names, but I just think that more things will open up. So it might be an RJ for Malik Monk deal might open up in the offseason. It's not a sexy move, but that might come with a pick, which would then allow you to flip that deal later on.
Yeah, Sacramento's going to include.
So, Coach, my main point. Yeah, I mean, here's sort of my synopsis of this. If you're going to make the BI trade, which at the time never made sense to me, and I wouldn't have done after the Pirtle trade, that means you're all in for this season because you think the East is weak, and you think you have a chance to be better, and maybe the Pacers of last year. Okay, fine. Let's just say I go with that, even though I think that's ludicrous. Okay. If that's the case, then you should be all in this year. And they did nothing. So Bobby got this job and has done nothing with it. And that's my problem more than anything else with what's happened today. Not that I would do it or not do it. I'm just saying, like, if you're going to make the BI trade, then you're all in to win this year because you know the East is getting better next year just from injuries returning alone. And now what's happened is everyone in the East has gotten better except the Raptors, and your team is no better off this year than it was last year, in my opinion.
So are you suggesting that Bobby should have went all in and just traded all of the assets regardless? Or
I wouldn't have done that, but the way that they have set this up is we're going to win this year. And so if you're Bobby and you're just going to sit there, then why did they give him the job? I don't get it.
I see what you're. Yeah. I mean, I don't have an answer for that, but I think just in terms of like right now and where you're at, I don't think that it's a problem that they didn't go for it because I don't see a move that was available that would have truly put them over the top. Like, you can't just say,
agree,
like,
which is why I understand, Kenny, but I wouldn't have made the BI move if that's the case. I would have kept my picks, and I would be in the position that all the other teams are.
Yeah, I agree with that. And at the beginning of this, actually, I said the same thing. I wouldn't have made the BI trade. It did change things, but now that they've made it, now it's like, now what is the next thing? I mean, even if you made the BI trade, to be fair, and you wanted to quote unquote go all in this year, what they could have done is not have paid Pirtle, and suddenly Pirtle is an expiring deal, right? Exactly. And now you can get in the mix, and you're like, okay, you know what? Now it's a lot easier to get off quickly for Trae Young. I'm not a big Trae Young fan, but it does get you better, and it's a short-term thing, and it's a gamble, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But it's shorter-term things. If I can just sum it up, and then I Coach, take it away because it's your show.
Yes.
I think I said this from time and time again. They need to change the speed at which they evaluate things and become more proactive and adaptive.
Yes.
And just sometimes that means that you got to eat it. That doesn't mean eat it as in thing, but it might mean taking, for example, paying to get off Pirtle, do that half step back and then go from there. What's interesting is I don't think that Milwaukee made their move to tank per se this year. So that's an interesting thing. It's like, would a Turner have even been available, for example?
Yeah. Well, what came out today, allegedly, was the Magic wanted a first-round pick for Goga, which I think that's insane. He's their third-string center. Why are you giving him a first-rounder for your third-string center? Gafford was the same thing. Dallas wanted a first, even though they gave him up, I think, and they never got a first. So, if the market is for these bigs, because these other teams know that there are small teams out there, and they're like, they really need them right now. So we're going to up the ante for how much we're going to, what's going to be required to give them up.
Wait,
Toronto,
Gafford got traded?
I believe Gafford got traded. Did he not?
I didn't see a Gafford trade. I was going to mention, of all the things that happened, the one little move that bothered me the most was, and Kenyon will know what I'm talking about because we discussed this privately.
Okay, maybe not. My bad.
Josh
I was like,
Kindale,
damn.
if I'm saying his name right, Josh Kindale, or from, I think he's from Utah. He moved,
You mean
and I don't think the price.
Landale.
Jock Landale, thank you, Kenyon. I couldn't remember his name. We talked about him as a possible piece for the Raptors. I don't think he moved for much. I would have much rather them go for him in a short-term deal than what they did, and they just, he didn't go for much.
But again, what is the problem with, because he was actually moved twice. The key thing is that you didn't have the expiring contracts at the right level to make those deals. So if you're getting someone to take on money, it's going to cost you, and it might cost you a first-round pick. And that's why you don't go and use a first-round pick to go get Goga Batadze, who is a better version of Kem Birch, basically.
Yeah, basically, Trace Jackson Davis could be Kem Birch, more or less, for us.
Yeah, but you don't give up a first round for that. No.
But I think the market for bigs was just first round picks.
I think Kem Birch is better.
Pretty crazy, eh?
As crazy as that sounds.
well, the bigs are back in basketball too. Let's remember, a couple of years ago, everybody wanted guys between 6'7" and 6'9". Like literally, Jeremy Sohan was drafted. He couldn't dribble or shoot just because he was athletic and he could switch on defense. And he was drafted over many players that he should not have been drafted over. But now the big man is back. And you're looking at the 2026 draft. There's not a lot of bigs in that draft either. There's like maybe 4 or 5 at most in the first round.
Yeah,
when
but you don't have to go for a big,
I'm not talking about Cam Boozer. I'm not talking about the fours. I mean like the centers almost. There's not many, quite honestly.
Yeah, but you don't have to go for a big, right? Like you could always go for other things and then use build up equity in other areas and then use your excess to go get a big, right?
Yes. Yeah. Draft the best player, obviously. Look, if the best player on the board can shoot, let's take him.
I mean, watching this team yesterday, Kenyon may be right. This team desperately needs a point guard and a point guard that can shoot. But my God, like the turnovers yesterday, Kenyon, you got this one right, buddy. Holy jeez! Like
I'm not
need a point guard.
I'm not saying that you don't need a big. I'm saying that like if I'm how I prioritize is it's like what is the thing that's going to solve more problems, and a big doesn't solve all your problems. If you got Anthony Davis, you're still not going to be able to initiate the offense well enough to make use of him. So that's why I keep going back to like we need a point guard. Whether Quickly's here or not, you need someone who can initiate the offense, right?
Well, point guard, shooting, and bigs. Like that's three things.
I know that they're buying out Quickly. I there's part of me that wants them to do it, but also I wouldn't do this because I kind of want them to kind of slip back a bit because, like I said, but if there was a world that they could get into the mix and get Mike Conley on the buyout, it would make their offense a lot better without taking too much away from anyone's spots.
Is it something they couldn't trade for him because of his contract, Kenyon? Because like why not?
Same type of thing.
Same
type of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I think if Bobby came in fresh to this job and he was external, like he's never been here, I think there might be a bit more remorse for him.
Correct.
But because he's been here and he helped sign these contracts besides sign off, it's hard to say, hey, you did this, by the way, by giving out all these contracts to these guys. You have no middle contracts. You either have cheap rookie contracts or you have expensive contracts. And what Kenyon said is why we're in this mess. You don't have the middle contracts. You got one middle contract, which might be Pirtle, and you can't trade him because of the extension and his back.
Yeah, he was brought in here to not make it worse, coach, and he's made it worse. So That's the
You're
problem.
also not using the middle contracts when you have them. So a good example is like a Chris Boucher made $10 million last year. Well, you know who makes $10 million this year and last year, I believe? It was Mike Conley.
Yep.
Now, I'm not necessarily saying that there was a move to get Mike Conley last year, but like you need certain contracts at different levels throughout your roster, and we don't really have that. Our like the closest to a middling contract is Jakob Pertl.
Yeah.
Like after Jakob Pertl, most of the people are like guys on their rookie scale or guys who are minimum deals, and then you risk if you give those middling contracts out to the wrong guy, or you hold on to those guys too long, you end up in a situation where imagine paying. I like Mamu, and
Yep.
I don't mind keeping him, but imagine keeping Mamu and paying him $15 million a year.
Well, next
That's
year
what's going to happen.
he's getting a big pay increase for sure. Next year,
Yes.
I think part of the reason they brought in Trace Jackson Davis too is he's got a team option. If you lose Mamu, he's the backup option for that.
Yes, yeah, it's a little bit of insurance to get you under the cap,
Yes.
and like you said, it's someone who's controllable. It's so
Yeah. And now if he
yeah.
resigns, they might say, "See you later," that kind of thing.
They also might just hold on to him too, just as a third big. But it's again the reason why they didn't do more is because it would have cost them more. So it's like, do you want them to blow all their assets? Let's go back to the Trey Murphy thing. Do you like? I'm hesitant for them to go and trade 3 picks and then be up Blanks Creek without a paddle. And
The team's not good enough.
But even that move, right? Like, because it's not necessarily an all-in move. That's like a move for you're building, but you don't have the extra pieces to build. If you had the Pacers pick, now you're adding a piece where you're adding it to move for him, and it's like it's basically the Brandon Ingram type of idea, but he's younger, and he's under contract for longer, and he's more cost controlled, and he's a better shooter.
Yeah. He had 44 last night, 12 threes.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to be a slightly better version of the New Orleans Pelicans, and that's what we got, boys.
In a sense, yeah.
That's what we are.
Yeah, I think so. It's they have to. We'll see where they go in terms of the buyout market, depending on what happens with Chris Paul. The other thing that I would be on the lookout for is some of their two ways, not Chucky Hepburn because he's obviously injured, but look for some of their two ways to maybe get the raise or whatever to end the season. So yeah.
So Kenyon, now that Chris Paul has not been moved, if they waive him, does that make any difference at all? Like,
no. Like you by getting Chris Paul, you went down in money either way. Waiving him doesn't matter. It just depends on how much they buy him out for. So ideally, you get a little bit of money back, but it's really not going to change much. Okay. They're under the cap. They made a good cost savings move from that perspective.
Yeah.
So he can just sit there and it doesn't matter really.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what he wants to do.
Jesus.
I don't know if they want him to play. They might change their mind. We've seen this before where a guy thinks that he's going and then all of a sudden he's in a Raptors uniform the next day. So I mean, we saw with Bruce Brown even. So it really just depends on how quick, I don't think a guy at Chris Paul's level, I don't think that they're just going to let him be waived without having a plan in place, if that makes sense. There's a respect factor there, but more than likely, I think that he will have somewhere. So yeah.
Yeah, no, Chris Paul, he's getting waived. Boy, that'd be something to him. Living in LA basically right now, coming to Toronto in February.
Hey man.
Man, hey, that Chris Paul, I would love to see that Chris Paul in practice. You come from sunny California to winter time in Canada. Ooh, man, those practices would be interesting to see.
The first thing he would do is bury the chain and throw pizza at Darko.
That too. Yeah.
Anyways, folks, thank you for joining. We are going to end this. I appreciate Kenyon and Mount for coming up and joining this trade deadline video. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'd like to get to like maybe 50 subscribers. I think I'm at 17. It'd be nice if I get to 50. I'd be pretty pumped about that. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining. And go Raptors tonight. You better win this game against the Chicago Bulls, who are in a worse mess than the Raptors. Way worse, I should say, because I have no clue what they're trying to do. They have guys, around our size, basically suiting up tonight. So,
Coach, did they beat the Pacers?
Oh boy!
if Zubac plays, boy, it will be tough.
If Zubac plays, the answer is no.
Should be fun.
That's
all I'll say.
They barely beat them without Zubac at home last time. They only beat them by 3.
Yes.
Should be fun.
Anyways,
Take care, Coach.
gentlemen. Take care, guys.
Take care.